One of the worst things that's happened in Trump's second term is the rogue district court judges that acted like they're the president. So let's get into the Supreme Court ruling. Let's start with Donald Trump. He was talking about the significance of the latest Supreme Court ruling that is limiting those nationwide injunctions. Take a look.
It took the court system out of the presidency to a large extent. The courts were almost like being the president, and you can't have it. It was such a big decision. This is one of the biggest decisions where you would have a local federal judge who was radical left determining the policy for the whole nation, and now they can't do that.
Obviously, the Friday Supreme Court ruling was a huge deal, but does the left still have tricks up their sleeves when it comes to try and hinder Donald Trump's presidency? MP, let's start with you.
Yeah, there's 1,001 ways to slow things down. There's really an infinite amount of ways that they can throw, anything they can to, as we were saying earlier, slow down the time. They want to prevent action. They know the clock is more on their side if they can slow things down. So, first off, this is an incredible, victory for common sense in a variety of ways. We can talk a little bit about that, but this was a great moment where you actually had the court doing its job and not trying to grab power. It was so obvious that, I'm thankful, but it also is a kind of a gimme. Like this should not even be an issue. Nonetheless, they did their job. That's great. But are there going to be more things that we will see coming up through the courts? Yes. They're not going to stop in the courts. They're going to keep going in a variety of different ways. They're going to push this. That's what you do in legal warfare. So this isn't over in the courts at all. And then, of course, there's many other things that you're going to see happen in the coming months. So basically what you have here is you have a lot of smart people who are very upset. They went to their tried and true tactic, right, which was preeminently like we're gonna have all these injunctions. We're gonna stop this administration from moving forward. That always works in the past, and they've done the tried and true tactic with the protests that have started up. We haven't seen the end of them, but what I'm predicting is they're going to move to other things that you probably haven't thought of yet.
So
in the next year.
It's a victory for common sense, and it's actually a 6-3 decision that came down from the Supreme Court. But since 2025, since Donald Trump has taken office, again for the second time, 40 injunctions have taken place, Chris, since he has taken office. So thankfully, there is some common sense out there right now in the courts.
Weird reading of what an injunction is able to do that we've been witness to for the first Trump administration. And now the beginning of the second, where a lawyer can represent all people, not just the plaintiff, not just the aggrieved, that they're able to say, you must do this for all people. That we saw it in the first administration where you had a judge in Hawaii who was deciding what federal immigration policy was, just a nationwide injunction. And that is thankfully over. Of course, there will be more tactics that are used, but that is a really essential one. And the courts will still be really important for different, to the left, for different aspects of their energy policy, for example. When you have more specific targets now, you'll be able to go at them continuously, whether it's President Trump saying, all right, we can drill here. Well, they can still sue over that and tie that up for years until a Democrat's back in office, and then the Democrat makes it protected lands, which is something very easy to do for an American president. And the next Republican president can't unprotect lands. That's part of the protected lands thing. It's very difficult to actually remove those protections, as Senator Mike Lee has just discovered. And when he stripped his aspect from the big, beautiful bill about opening up some of the federal lands to development, that landmine he stepped on for so many different things. There'll still be different paths. But one of my favorite things about this ruling was Ketanji Brown Jackson versus Amy Coney Barrett. Ketanji Brown Jackson, the judge who wrote the dissenting opinion for the Democrats, the one who wore a voodoo necklace to the State of the Union, just an interesting character all around, basically cited legal law that didn't exist. Tried to say that this is dictatorship, just sounded much more like a Democratic activist who hadn't actually done all of the necessary research or the readings. The way that the clerks wrote in the opinion was stupid. They would end things with ... wait for it ... like they were tweeting or just using Zoomer humor, I suppose. And then you had Amy Coney Barrett who went right at her and said, you're citing legal opinions that don't make sense, that aren't real. You're not going anywhere off of jurisprudence and the previous laws have established. You're not going off of established American legal theories, and you're making stuff up. And and by the way, I know that research is hard, sort of thing. It was a sign that and this is probably something that the end of the filibuster brought to the Supreme Court, which was started with Harry Reid and then finished by Mitch McConnell. You've got more open animus between judges in that courtroom that you didn't have previously. I mean, you saw it with the leaking of the Dobbs decision, and you see it in these decisions, which are significantly more funny and less threatening than that awful Dobbs case with that leak and the death threats that followed. But it's an entertaining read, and if you haven't caught up on it, log on to social media or pull up the opinions. They're fun.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at some of the numbers since this case came down. Since 1963, there have been 167 injunctions, and 62% of them have gone against Donald Trump, Matthew.
Yeah, this is shameless.
It's crazy.
Shameless. I mean, this is
That's a great stat.
It's a joke, and you can look at the stats, and they're very clear. You can look at the record, and you look at the arguments, and it's very clear. I mean, it is a shameless, outrageous attempt to thwart, our system, our sacred democracy, as they say, is under threat because of this. And we have to say, at least with ACB, like, then you go and totally redeem yourself. Yeah. We'd given up. But I don't know, totally redeemed, but that was very strong. And Chris, you were being very polite when you talked about Jackson's opinion and the Zoomers. I mean, this stuff was really dumb. I mean, it was embarrassing to the court. And I think that we're at the point where everyone else on the bench, probably almost all of them, realize this. And that's really a travesty.
Bedford, final word, 60 seconds here.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think there'll be more coming down from the Supreme Court. I'm happy to see these good decisions because just like Matt said, Amy Coney Barrett hasn't always been that strong. There's been a lot of feelings that seem to have entered some of these rulings. These things are less predictable with the conservative side than they are on the left-wing side. But we know that with the left-wing predictability that we are still in for some more entertainingly stupid decisions or hopefully dissents.
Guaranteed. Yes. Write that down. Take it to the bank. Bedford, thanks so much. We'll see you again tomorrow.
See you then.